let's get kicked off. Thanks for joining me, Alex. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe your family's history in the bowling space, and some of the companies that you're working with today.
Thank you, Forrest, for letting me on the show. I'm Alexander Funk. As you can probably hear from my accent, from Germany. So I'm a German. My family I'm the third generation of a family business. We're a manufacturer of bowling equipment, pin setters, lane, basically everything. So we're a full service manufacturer, install. We also do service on our bowling lanes. Also, my family over the years evolved to also a proprietor family. We own about 8 bowling centers in Germany. Yeah. So that's my background. So I'm with the company now for 5 years. After I finished my master's studies in economics, I joined a family business. And so far, it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so your grandfather started the...
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So a little bit on the background. So he started, so our roots rely in 9-pin bowling. It's not so popular in the US. It's more Europe, Eastern Europe. Basically, 9-pin bowling was there since forever. And then bowling, the 10-pin bowling, you guys all know, evolved from the 9-pin bowling after it got brought over by German settlers to the US. And as a matter of fact, not many know about this real story of. So they started doing 9-pin bowling, and this has not a lot to do with the bowling that we know. There were no automated pin setters or nothing. I think they just realigned the pins by hand, and they started doing that. Often it was involved with drinking and gambling. It got prohibited actually, 9-pin bowling. So to get around that, they started just to put one more pin, so 10 pins, and put them a little bit closer together, make the ball bigger. And the 10-pin bowling was born because of that, because of the prohibition of 9-pin bowling. And that's where my family history or our company history comes from. Obviously, over the years, 10-pin bowling evolved from that. And my grandfather, he first worked for a company that made one of the first automated string pin setters in the world. And he worked there as an electrician. And he had some ideas of how to make certain things better, and he got moved to sales because of his new ideas, crazy ideas. He got moved to sales, and then after a while, he started realizing, I can build the pin setter and I can sell it and I can probably make it better. Why do not start my own business? So in the next village, basically, he started his own businesses. So there's 2 villages in the south of Germany, and both villages have an equipment manufacturer now.
Okay.
So that's when he started.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. I remember you telling me that when we met about the string pin, that now it's becoming like the thing that people move towards because the maintenance, but you guys have been doing it for a long time and pushing that, especially in Europe. And now we're finally starting to catch up.
Yeah. It's very interesting to see like the history and to also see this change to string pin setters now is because we've been looking at that and we've always been doing that. While like towards the year 2000, we also built a freefall pin setter because it seemed like that was where the whole industry is going. So we have to also make a freefall pin setter for bowling, for the sports bowlers. It was actually also USB-C approved. So the USB-C flew over here to approve our freefall. And that was only like 22 years ago. And now the whole industry switched back, and now we only focus on the string pin setter, which we've been doing forever. We don't even make the freefall pin setter anymore, which is crazy because we invested so much work and money into developing this. So what happened? That's the big question, and I think the industry shifted, the focus shifted. The mindset of the proprietor also maybe has shifted, and there's a number of factors that go into this. But I remember my father, when he was 2004, 2005, he went to Bowl Expo with our string pin setter. Everyone laughed at him. Yeah, that's not real bowling. And what are you doing? And this is a joke, Now you don't see any other pin setters at Bowl Expo anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I just talked to a guy who just put in string into half of his center, and he's like, if I could go back, I would make it all in my center. Just so much better with the maintenance, and it's easy to work with. A lot of people are having shortages of mechanics. It's really hard to get a mechanic, so that's just another factor. You don't have your pin chaser. It's just overall better.
Yeah, exactly. You just get rid of a lot of headache. And I can understand if some centers are big sports centers with a lot of league business and they're scared to lose their bowlers. I totally understand that. And that's, I would have the same thought, but every center has to be true to themselves and ask themselves, okay, where are my profit centers? and also where are my cost centers, and how would it affect me if I switch to string and like actually make up the numbers. And then, and I'm not saying this now as a sales pitch or anything, but usually it's a no-brainer, because even if you, for example, do not have the cash to switch to string immediately, there is a lot of leasing programs, and the saving from switching to string from labor and parts almost offset what you would pay monthly for a lease or a financing. So it makes it a no-brainer. Basically, like on a belt, you can basically switch for if you look at that.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people like you said, it was just the stigma that it's different. Obviously, bowling has a lot of tradition behind it, and now that they see it. So did they approved the string for the association, or is that still in the works? For
that's still in the work. Yeah, there's basically they have a preliminary certifications for manufacturers, which is really general. I think there's still a lot to be done to go into specifics, but the process is there, which is good. So they're looking into it, they're actively doing it. So it's going to come no matter what. I see more and more proprietors that do not like, they would still go ahead and do it without any specifications in place or any promises in place. But I think it will definitely come.
Yeah. And a lot of the proprietors that I've been talking to lately, some of the people who have some bigger centers and do some more revenue, they're all moving towards that FEC center anyway. The leagues are like you'll pay for your utilities, but most of the profit is on the FECs, and that's really what they're focused on anyway. A lot of people take out lanes so they can put in other things to complement. Yeah,
and that's usually also the customer that talks to us, because I see also with the shift in generation at a proprietor side, I also see a kind of increase in professionalism, or maybe looking at things differently. And a lot of owners right now do not look at bowling as itself anymore. They look at revenue per square footage, for example. And a bowling lane is very big, and they know maybe there's other amusement possibilities I can put in there that maybe increase my number of, again, revenue per square foot. And when they go ahead and take lanes out, put something in that maybe attracts a new group of customer to their center that has never been there, maybe they will also enjoy the bowling. And the same customer also looks at freefall pin setter and string pin setter, not from a financial point of view. And so they start talking to us. The thinking of improvement will automatically trigger that you have to look at string pin setters because the numbers are really good.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure you guys are having some pretty good years right now. A lot of installs.
It's going well, yeah.
Good. And I know historically you've been mostly in Europe, and as of recently you put in a push in the US. Is that going pretty well so far, getting that adoption?
Yeah, luckily we found a really good partner who was our customer before, bought our equipment. Steven Kolarczyk, we're based off just outside of Detroit. That's where his home base is. And we started the company with him. And because we really need a central point, we can't do it all from Germany because of the logistics, because of installation, until now, we built a pretty decent team in the US with a lot of really good guys, bowling experts, installation experts. And so we have just over 10 people there now and 2 installation teams working simultaneously. Yeah, it's really proud of what the guys have done there.
Yeah, no, it seems like you guys are ahead of the curve, and now you're starting to reap the benefits.
Yeah, it's perfect. We anticipated that the switch to string will happen at some point. So basically, we had the plan already on our desk to push for the US market, which for us, it's the biggest market in the world. But for us, this is just very big. And it accelerated earlier than expected because I don't think that we are a trigger, that we come to the US and now we introduce the string pin setter to this foreign market. I think we're just not big enough to, trigger this whole change. But I think what really triggered is other manufacturers with very big marketing team now start educating their customers and their proprietors on the benefits of string, and this automatically helps me. So whenever I see an advertisement about how great the string pin setter is, and this advertisement is from some other company, I'm automatically happy because it helps me. We're riding the wave.
They're selling for you.
Yeah,
you're in the right spot when your big competitors start offering it as well. You see that big push from those guys. That seems to be their big. So we talked a little bit about the machines side of your companies. let's talk a little bit about the centers that you guys have picked up over the years and running some of those, because you guys have the unique insight of being operators as well. So tell me a little bit about how you guys acquired some of these, and maybe some of the things that you guys are doing today to run them that's working.
Yeah, over the years, as a manufacturer or as a family, you grow relationships to your customer, because also part of our strategy is that we are here for you, and we value the relationships to our customers. And so opportunities of purchasing a center or to take over a center automatically arise, because there is always, it's just natural that you get these offerings for maybe centers that are in trouble, maybe centers do not have anyone else to take it over. Yeah, we as a family usually step in, and what we do is we never run the center. So that's one big rule in our families. We don't run it, because for us as a family, we have limited members in our family, so it's just not scalable. Obviously, it's all funk equipment in there, and there are our centers, but we always have someone who runs the center. And I think key to success here is that we only provide the basic framework to those proprietors or to those center managers, and leave everything else up to them. Because all of our centers are in really different parts of Germany. So it's not like in one place or here in the south, it's more, they're all over the place. Yeah. And sometimes in a really rural area, sometimes in like a metropolitan area or a bigger city. And every center is different and has to be looked at in their own context. So that's why we leave a lot of freedom to our proprietors to run their business however they want to.
So what kind of stuff do you say as far as framework? Is it like a licensing play? Are they all branded under the Funk name, or what do you provide for them, or how do you run them all together?
We provide them the equipment and the investment on the general things that are necessary in the bowling center, and they just have to pay a lease for the center. And most other things are up to them. Obviously, the funk equipment in there is set, but that's part of the building that's already covered then, for example, by the lease. So that's really all framework. We do not interfere with marketing or trying to micromanage all of our proprietors, because then in that case, you're interfering with someone else's business, someone else's mission. It's just not so good.
Yeah, that's not your game. That's interesting, because a lot of people will try to franchise or do a private chain or a licensing play where they're giving out frameworks of here's how you can operate the real estate.
I thought about that, and I think it's a very attractive idea to try and make. We already have 8 centers in Germany, and I think creating one set of material and just reproducing it 8 times makes a lot of sense. But then again, what is our main business is the manufacturing side. Right, exactly. And that's a pretty heavy lift. That's more than a full-time job. You need a whole team to do that, because if you do it, you have to do it right. So it pays off, because the return, you have to invest a lot into creating a franchise like this. And for us, right now, we just don't have the time to do it.
A lot of good opportunities, but you got to pick the best one,
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So then the other thing, I know you guys aren't involved in the operations, but are there some things that you're seeing work for them? Maybe some kind of like promotions or leagues, or obviously they have the string pins, string machines. What kind of stuff do you see working for them, or that seems to take off?
Yeah. So what I see is for our centers, but also a lot for our customers, especially those who switch to string, already think a little bit different than the regular owner. They think in opportunity costs, for example. They, like some proprietors, do not even think in numbers. They just, maybe they think with their heart, with their mind. And so what I see with those customers, and also a lot of advice that we give, is really invest also in the interior of your. I think that's, for me, that's very important, because to be fair, the bowling lane itself will always look the same. Yeah, you can choose on color, and you can choose which color capping and gutter and bumper you're going to use. But overall, every bowling lane looks the same. There's not a lot of difference. So what makes some places really aesthetic is not the bowling lane, it's the lighting, it's the interior, it's the seating unit. And all those things it's not provided by the manufacturer. Right. So all the design awards and bowling centers looking really fancy, it's not the bowling company that makes them fancy, it's an interior designer. who thinks about the general concept of the center
Yeah.
and how to make everything fit together. And I think nowadays that's almost the most important factor. If you're already, on string and you already optimized your business, I think that's a really good investment to do, because it's going to pay off, especially for the future. Because I think if you make your play Instagrammable, you have free marketing from the young generation that comes in there that does not only enjoy the bowling, but also the social aspect for it and the aesthetic of the center. And if they feel they're in a very aesthetic center, they automatically, and they also want to communicate this feeling or this extravagant lifestyle through their social media, and they start taking pictures, they start tagging your center and basically generating free marketing for you, which is, I think the impact is huge, and it's very much underestimated by most center owners. And to achieve that, I think the most important thing is, I think with a great lighting solution and ambient lighting, indirect light, you can already achieve a lot for very little. And what goes along with that is obviously furniture and things like that. But I think lighting is the most return on invest that you're going to get for improving your interior.
Yeah. I totally agree. You can see in the background, I have some ambient lighting. It goes a long way. And it's not expensive. But yeah, and I'd really agree, because someone who's 30 years old, when I'm looking at like a restaurant or place we're going to go out for the eat like a Friday night, ambiance is just as important to me as the food. And the same with the bowling, the activity. The ambiance is really critical for the spot that I'm going to go. If I'm going to go out and spend money, I want to be in a cool setting.
Sound is so important. If like, those restaurants that seem really loud, but those places you just don't want to spend a lot of time in there because it's loud, it's distracting, and that's usually not something that you realize right away. But subconsciously, you do not feel, very home in these places. And I think the same goes for bowling centers. Some bowling centers are really loud. You're really loud places. You can hear all the conversation going on, all the laughing, all the yelling, the music's too loud. The machine in the back is too loud. And I think to invest in someone who looks at the general sound physics in your center, a lot of the measures that you can do are really inexpensive. Sometimes they even look good when you have the sound dampening.
The panels.
There's so many products. The panels, you just put them on the side of you. They even look good.
They do, yeah.
And they make such a big difference. I think you should definitely pay attention to hear the sound of the pins. Like when you score a strike for a bowler, this sound is so memorable. So I think it's really important that you hear this. But I think to make it to have the best experience, it should just be very quiet and the music not so loud.
Right. Yeah, be able to hold a conversation pretty easily instead of the taking turns shouting in someone's ear like at a nightclub.
Yeah, I think that the times of disco bowling are over. I think it's over now.
Yeah. What about, those are a couple of different things that are working for them. Anything else that you're seeing? So I mean, like the sound and the lighting, is that something that you guys work with your centers? You just suggest that they do, or what kind of involvement, or do you see if someone wanted to do this tomorrow, what would they do? Just go hire someone, or how do you see that?
No, they can come up to us, and we have, because we work with so many centers and ground up buildings, we're involved in every step. And usually if you're making a new center, you're going to talk to us first, and then we have a certain level of expertise, but anything that goes beyond that, we usually bring a contractor in where we have a good network.
Okay. Oh, very cool. So you have some people that you trust to do that specifically for centers. Very cool.
Well, for light solution, we basically have our own product, but I'm talking more for sound. I think there's specialists for that. Over the lanes, for example, in the lane area, that's something that we would definitely cover, because there is only a number of systems out there that I would use or I think are good. But to tie this with the rest of your center or FEC or whatever type of business you are, I would suggest hiring an interior architect. Not only does the lanes, but the whole rest of the center. That's usually something that we don't do. But I think it should tie in with the general theme and experience of the whole place. And don't only invest only in your lanes and only in the lighting above the lanes, but everywhere after the same theme. And that's like that. Then that in this case, I would bring someone in to do this, because that's not anymore what we do.
Yeah, a little above that. Okay. Yeah. So then I wanted to ask you two questions about the centers, and you could tie these in with the manufacturing side as well. But what would you say is like their biggest challenge right now? And it could be if there's two different challenges between each, but I'm curious, what's their biggest challenge or maybe your biggest challenge on the funk bowl side?
I think the biggest challenge of, let's say, a proprietor is making a lot of centers are now in a phase. When was the big hype of bowling? Maybe in the 80s, where most of the centers were built during that time.
Yeah.
And now it is time to find, usually the next generation comes in now. And with the next generation, I do not mean the son or daughter taking over the center, but also the next generation in terms of the next generation of customer. Yeah, the customer life cycle. Usually those centers are also now need to make investments in their building, in their business, in their employees, and generally there is no guide how to do that. There is no guide of what's the best way to involve your son in the business or daughter in the business. There's no guide of what investments do you need to make now to make yourself profitable for the future. So it's really a turning point for a lot of centers because they're already 30 years old and they need to do something, or because they're in a situation that the next generation takes over, or the next generation of customer now takes over because the league bowlers don't come so frequently anymore. And so there's basically those three dimensions that come together now, and they require action because doing nothing is not a strategy. So to find the balance, okay, first of all, you have to realize, okay, I have to, and then to know where you have to invest and how much and how to invest. Those questions are just answered really looking at your business. Maybe also to bring someone in to look at your business because maybe you're already blind to the changes that you have to make because you worked there for so long. If you realize already this, then you're on a good.
Yeah. No, I really like that. As far as there isn't a guide, you have to figure that out for yourself, what your priorities are, where you want to spend, because investment is always limited, right? You only have so much that you can put in at any one time. So what are those pieces that you want to move forward to ride that transition?
And it's so important. And the centers that they come to us, then they are already 10 steps into that process. Those centers have already had the realization that they have to change something. They already made the decisions. They already went through the process, but there is a lot of centers out there that are not doing anything right now. And that's just not a strategy.
Yeah, they're only gonna be able to do that for so long before things pass them.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that not every investment is $1 million investment. Not every investment means turning the whole center upside down and changing everything that has worked in the past. It is just, okay, where was I 10 years ago? Where am I now? And then maybe it requires limited change only. I do not mean that there's a lot of profitable centers out there. They're doing a lot of things. And sometimes a change can also be maybe a little thing. I think this is something that has to happen constantly. But I think right now, there is a big turning point that may trigger this from the outside.
So then if you had to give a proprietor one piece of advice other than buying a string machine, what would that be on how to take action on maybe some of these changes?
I would say listen to your customers and make your center Instagrammable, because that's just overall free marketing, and it's going to improve everyone's experience, even if someone doesn't have Instagram or TikTok or something.
It's
not tied into that. That's just a term that I like to use.
Yeah, I like that. So then one more I wanted to ask is recruiting, and you probably have this on both sides. How are you guys handling that? At least in the US, there's somewhat of a staffing shortage. Is that something that you guys experience as well? And how do you go about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think recruiting is a big topic for everyone right now. If you're a tech company or if you're a bowling center or a bowling center manufacturer, luckily here in Germany, we are tied in with our community pretty well. So I think here I do not see so much of a problem. For what's harder is, as a proprietor, I think the recruiting, it's basically, I think it's going to shift towards an ever-changing staff, because you have students and you have people that see working in a bowling alley only as a part of their journey, because I think with the younger generation right now, they're always on their journey towards something. A lot of young people do not settle down because they think like they're not there yet. They're not there yet. So I think you have to realize that most of your employees only see this as one step, towards wherever they want to go. With an ever-changing staff or a rotating staff, if you have accepted that this is just going to be the way it's always going to be, then I think you have to simplify a lot of the things in the center in terms of the center management system, in terms of processes. You really be on a solid digital foundation. I think that enables the rotation of your employees more frequently, so you don't have to train everyone all the time. I think that's very important. And for us, in terms of a manufacturer in the US right now, we mainly recruit in the bowling industry, but I do not see, in the greater Detroit area, the market for employees is very good there. So I don't have a problem with it. And then also within the bowling industry, there is a healthy market for employees. I have no problem with it, to be honest.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sorry with Detroit, there's somewhat of a vacuum that you're coming into on the manufacturing side as some of the companies have moved. That's interesting. Yeah, making your onboarding process really slick is probably one of the best ways you can get people in quickly and get them on the way.
And rotate them too. And it's important to have things in there at the same time to bind them for a long period of time. And I think still that's very important. At the same time, accepting the fact that, the generation maybe has shifted or the mindset has shifted, especially after COVID now. And I think that's just a new reality. But yeah, if you're lucky, you'll find a group of loyal employees. And I think it's always important to reward them. But my piece of advice would be simplify the processes in there. And the time of onboarding will be easier, and also the errors and the headache you get will be less.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to, since we're a marketing agency, that's what we do. We're trying to get the message out for the centers and get people in there. I like to try to say, hey, this is the same process for your recruiting and staffing. You need to get out and get a good job ad. It's like a good ad that you would put on anywhere else in advertising, get customers in. You need a good advertisement to get employees in. And then your interview is your sale. You're selling them on getting this job. And whereas before, if they needed a job, they just took a job. But there's a plethora of jobs now. The market dynamic is flipped, and now you need to outsell other jobs. You're competing, so it's
exactly.
It's just on the other end.
What you're saying is, I support it at 100%. But the meaning of this is, it's just boom. It's so different now. But now you're in a whole different position. Now you have to have a different mindset, and it's exactly right what you say. And this is not only true for the proprietor and the onboarding and the hiring process, but it's also true for bowling as a form of entertainment. It's not only it's not bowling as a service, it's entertainment as a service, and it's competing with a lot of other lots of other forms of entertainment. And this requires bowling to be very innovative, because all other forms of entertainment, if you go to IAPA, you can see that they are highly innovative. And we cannot be so proud and say, okay, bowling is the most entertaining and most social thing out there, and they will always play bowling, because the FECs are only looking at the revenue per square foot and the customer retention at the time. It improves the time of the customer spent at your facility and those things. But yeah, we're competing against other industries. The same as in proprietor competes with other jobs.
So to take it home, we've touched on this indirectly a few different times, but I'd like to finish out by asking you where you see the industry going over the next couple of years, maybe 3-5 years. So we've talked a little bit about some of the string machines and technology. Give me just a brief overview of where you see things going for the next couple of years for the industry.
So I think bowling centers are headed from being a place of sports and competition to a place of social interaction and fun. And that's basically enabled over technology is the main driver of that, of innovation. I think that's one of the most important things, technology and digital innovation that will help to stay competitive in front of other forms of entertainment. So I think that's I see that as the only way of bowling really staying relevant in FECs is technology.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something we've seen happening for a little bit now. So you're saying the
Yeah.
continuance of that, or even a further progression.
Yeah, I know. I see a continuance, but it needs to be in the right direction. And it's not easy to steer bowling because I think bowling is going to stay bowling. I do not believe in, for example, virtual bowling or fully virtual bowling, like you having
Mhm.
your Wii controller and swinging it, and that has been there for a while now. I do not see bowling in that going in that direction because
No.
I think no virtual simulation beats having a real bowling ball and
Mhm.
having real bowling pins and feeling the oil on the lanes and like hearing how the pins get knocked over, and the physical aspect of bowling I think
Mhm.
will always be there, and this will be the foundation of everything. But I
Mhm.
think technology will maybe enable some other things that you can do. Why is it a 2-ball 10 frame game? Who says
Mhm.
it needs to be? Why do I not throw down a Pokeball down the lane and catch a
Mhm.
Pokemon that's on the lane or something like this? I think we need to be more open towards those kind of innovations because other industries are very innovative as well. And
Right.
maybe bowling has to catch up.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think you raise a good point as well about the tactile feeling, especially as we get more and more deeper into technology in our daily lives. I think you see a big counterbalance of people doing woodworking or camping or doing things that are more tactile and not technology to get a break from that. So I think you're right. I don't think the physical bowling is going anywhere. It's just a matter of adapting it and bringing up
Yeah.
some of these other technologies.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of employees are at home interacting digitally with others, just
Mhm.
like me right now. And after a whole day of sitting alone at home and just in virtual meetings,
Mhm.
I think the benefit from going bowling, being out, doing something physical, while at the same time enjoying the socialness and the presence of, I
Yeah.
think that's just like a human instinct and a human need, and that's
Right.
always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's never going to go away. That's very good. I think maybe COVID and the changes of the work from home policies and such thing, maybe they're beneficial for bowling, I think. And they
Yeah.
give
In the long
bowling
run.
now another chance, maybe.
Mhm.
And so far, I think the numbers in every bowling centers are picking up after COVID.
Yes.
I
Yep.
think it's because of that. And people go out to go bowl.
Mm.
And now maybe bowling has to prove it's a sport worth doing. It's a social, it's something social that you can really enjoy doing with your friends.
Right. Yeah. What do you do with that momentum kind of thing? Let's see,
Exactly.
what they
Yeah.
do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. We're coming up on time, Alex. I really appreciate you taking the time. If someone wants to get in touch with you or, ask you about, some of the stuff that you guys provide, what's the best way for them to reach you or contact?
Just add me on LinkedIn, Alexander Funk, or
Mhm.
reach out to one of our business pages. I'm reading everything. Info or alex@funkbowling.com is my email address. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I'm
Any
sure you'll have some,
questions? Yeah.
yeah, some questions about some of the stuff you brought up, the sound, the lighting, the ambiance, really cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you,
Cool.
Forrest, for
Yeah.
making this podcast. It's an amazing thing, a platform,
Hmm.
basically for free for
Hmm.
proprietors to consume, to learn about the bowling industry, and we will all see each other in Vegas, hopefully, this year at Bowl Expo. I'll also be there. We have a booth, so I think that's also a good chance to catch me.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, you're right. Most centers aren't close enough to where they're directly competing. So we can all work together and say, here's what's working and come together as a community. I'm a
We
big
have to,
believer in that.
we have to because it's about we're all competing in a sense, not to each other, but as I said before, and repeating myself, to other sports and forms of entertainment and social activity.
Right.
And so it makes only sense to communicate to each other what's working, what's not working, where's the industry headed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to do your contribution to help out.
Thanks for having me
Yeah, it's
first.
been a pleasure. Yeah. Thanks, Alex.